By the end of this video, you will have 5 extremely clear and easy to implement productivity hacks that will 10x your output as a content creator, help you feel more fulfilled with your work, and best of all, give you much more free time so you can balance your work and your life. Let's dive in. I can tell you without a doubt, pursuing my passion for content creation has been the most rewarding and fulfilling endeavor of my life. But the journey of a content creator, especially at the beginning, is one of self-motivation. At the end of the day, your ability to envision an idea, take action, and execute from start to finish is the biggest thing that will separate you from so many people who have dreams but struggle turning them into a reality. I struggled with this for years. Goals to create a freelance video business, grow a YouTube channel, build a following sharing my passions, but my focus was constantly getting derailed. Little to no action taken, resulting in years of staying stuck in the same exact place. But over time, I developed a simple productivity framework that changed everything. And in a relatively short period of time, I was able to scale a multi-six-figure video production company that allowed me to travel the world and work with awesome brands, grow a YouTube channel to over 100,000 subscribers in roughly a year, launch an online business that's gone on to impact over 140,000 people from all over the world and generate multiple 7 figures per year in revenue, invest in rental properties and Airbnbs, along with building a chain of car washes in North Carolina, all while still having time to do other things I enjoy in life that aren't related to work, like take month-long vacations, fish on a weekly basis, and spend time with my family and my friends. Now, I don't say any of this to brag, more so I say it to prove that what I share today actually works. It's not just regurgitated tips that I read from some off-the-shelf self-help book. All right. Tip number 1 is the foundation that all future tips will build upon, and I think individually is the number 1 most common trait of successful creators. Reduce the time between idea and execution by asking yourself 2 questions. What is the MINS, or minimum next step? And then, what's stopping me from doing this right now? Here's the theory. Creative projects are like a plane taking off. 25 to 40% of the fuel a plane needs to actually do a flight is used during the takeoff. Once the flight is in the air though, the amount of fuel it needs to keep going is significantly less. The amount of time most creators spend in the procrastination phase between idea and action is debilitating. Procrastination is typically a product of not knowing exactly what your next step should be. They know they want to create something like a YouTube video, but despite knowing the end goal, they end up procrastinating because they haven't asked themselves the most crucial first question. What is the minimum next step? For me, with a YouTube video, that's coming up with the rough title. Once we know our MINS, on to the next question. What's stopping me from coming up with this rough title idea right now? If I don't have a reasonable answer to that question, I have no choice but to start that right this second. Now, if I do have an answer to that question, like, oh, I need to finish this other project first, then the reasonable next step is to ask, okay, what's the minimum next step to finish that project that's stopping me from doing this thing? All you're doing is consistently working yourself backwards until you find out exactly what your next step on this path needs to be. Okay, so that is crucial to understand and start implementing as soon as possible. If you can reduce the amount of time it takes you to take action on every single thing that you do, it will change your life and allow you to get so much more done. Now, tip number 2 actually builds off this by helping you reduce the amount of time you spend in the morning deciding on what you need to do today. I call it the critical completion checklist, one of the simplest but most powerful routine elements on earth. Before I explain this though, if you're finding this content valuable, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We've got a ton of epic content planned, and this will make sure you don't miss it. Okay, so every night before finishing work, and definitely before going to bed, I make sure I do one thing. I take out my notebook and I write down the 3 critical things I know I need to complete the following day. Doing this before you clock out for the day is key. This is when everything from the current day is still fresh in your mind. You know what you got done, what went well, and what didn't, and now you can synthesize all of that fresh data and write down these specific things you need to do tomorrow. Why this is so important has everything to do with the first tip. It's all about reducing the amount of time between idea and execution. When I wake up in the morning, I sit down at my desk and I know exactly what I need to do already by referencing what past Anthony wrote in his notebook. If I don't do this, I end up spending a chunk of my morning first figuring out what I should be doing, which slows down the entire process of going from idea to execution. My goal with the 3 things I write down is to be as specific and measurable as possible, not something lofty and immeasurable like start working on that YouTube video. but instead very specific, like film all the B-roll required for the YouTube video you shot 2 days ago, or finish editing that Facebook ad for your local gym client. You want things with a very clear black and white start and finish. Now, a couple things I've discovered after doing this for years. For me, a physical notebook works best because I can literally leave it open on my desk at all times versus a list or some trendy app on my phone that can get buried, it's easy to lose, and every time you want to use it, you open up your phone, which is a massive source of distraction. I also like the notebook because when I'm on calls with people, I can literally have it open and take notes on specific actionable items that I would otherwise immediately forget after the call. Without a notebook, regularly I'll get off like a Zoom call and forget 90% of the things that I said I would do on that call. Not to mention, another accessory benefit of the critical completion checklist is that for people who work from home, if you're anything like me, sometimes it can be hard to separate work and life. For me, knowing my office is literally always right there in my house, sometimes I struggle unplugging and telling myself it's okay to stop working for a day. By defining my 3 critical things the night before, I'm essentially structuring my next day with a super black and white line. Once these 3 major things are done, you can check out. If that comes at 4 p.m., awesome, you're done early. If it takes until 10 p.m., tough cookies. Take that into account the next time you define your day and throw an unrealistic amount of project work on your plate. Or, and this is a big or, maybe ask yourself why it's taking you so long to do the things you thought you'd be able to finish by 5 p.m. And that takes us back to the first tip in this video. Okay, moving on though. Up next, we've got a cliche tip, but stick around because I'll take it a step further. Eliminate unnecessary distractions, and I'll tell you the best way that I've done it. This tip honestly could have come first because it is fundamentally one of the first things you need to solve. You cannot succeed if you are constantly in an environment where distraction is inevitable. For me, without a doubt, Instagram and Facebook are the 2 major sources of distraction in my life. At a certain point, pretty much anytime I grabbed my phone for something, I had this automatic subconscious routine to check Instagram and Facebook, and I'm sure many can relate to this. One quick check of Facebook or Instagram can easily lead to 30 minutes, an hour, and that seriously piles up throughout the day. The first solution I came up with was to just leave my phone in another room while I was working. Although this did work, eventually it felt like too extreme of a solution. There are just too many times throughout the day where I actually need my phone for something. Then I use the built-in focus and screen time controls on my iPhone, which basically block the apps anytime I hit a certain amount of usage. But although good in theory, the focus controls really don't do much to stop you outside of reminding you how much time you spent on the app and give you a very easy to ignore warning. Finally, I found what is now one of my favorite apps on my phone. It's called Opal, and they have truly solved the distractionary nature of my phone. Opal allows you to set custom limits on apps, automatic schedules, and the process of trying to bypass a lock has just enough extra steps in it to where I literally have never cheated and turned off the limit for the sake of just needless scrolling. Every time I start the process of trying to bypass that block, I ask myself, why are you doing this? Would you rather scroll needlessly on social media or use the extra time you save to go fishing at the end of the day or do something else that you actually love? I set Opal to block social media apps from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week, and I currently average less than 10 minutes a day on social media, and that's usually for times I specifically snooze Opal because I actually need to get on social media for work reasons like posting or responding to students in our private course communities. And I feel like it's genuinely rewiring my brain to the point where it's not the first thing I grab in the morning, and it's not the last thing that I do on my phone before going to bed. Opal is not sponsoring us. I just genuinely love their app, and I've included a link below where you can get your first month for free. Even after that, it's legit $99 for the entire year. And if you're an entrepreneur, the amount of time you save will be worth tens of thousands of dollars. So this app pays for itself. All right, tip number 4 is a fan favorite I've shared before, and tons of people have let me know it really increased their output. It's this timer right here. Each side has a different time on it, so based on the task I'm working on, I set the timer and work with deep, uninterrupted focus until the timer goes off. Specifically, this is building off something known as the Pomodoro technique, where you do timed segments of deep focus and then quick breaks. Scientifically, it's been proven to help people get much more done throughout their day, but I do modify things slightly to work the way that I work. Technically, Pomodoro is 25 minutes on and then 5 minutes off, but for me, I have certain tasks that really should take a lot more than 25 minutes and some that I know will take multiple hours. So realistically, I ask myself how long I think something should take me. Scripting out this YouTube video that you're watching, for example, I knew it would likely be a 3-hour-long process. So to stay accountable to myself, I knew I'd set the time to its max 1-hour length and then repeat the process 2 more times. At each hour, I can take a quick break, grab a coffee or a snack, and then repeat the process. When I have that timer on my desk clicking away, I'm always laser focused. It's almost like I'm competing with the timer, trying to prove that I can beat it to the finish line. And even better, when the timer is going, I have a rule where I cannot get sidetracked by another work distraction, like an email or a text from a coworker, checking on the views from a recent YouTube video we posted. All of the things that I normally do immediately when the thought comes into my brain, having the timer going is just enough of an accountability check to where I can easily say, hold off on responding, wait until the timer is done. Now on shorter tasks, it's also great for, again, staying accountable. Certain things like running payroll for our team, responding to emails in the morning when I wake up, doing a quick video edit for social media. If I think I can get it done in 15 minutes, again, I set the timer to hold myself accountable. You will learn so much about how you work when you're actually tracking the time it takes you to do these things. And if you want this timer, by the way, I've included a link for it in the description beneath this video. You can get it from Amazon. It's like super cheap. All right, tip number 5 is actually going to be the most specific tip for content creators of this entire list. But again, it builds off the same topic of reducing the time from idea to execution. Remove as much friction as you can from idea for a video to hitting the record button. In other words, systematize your filming setup as much as you can. If you look at my desk, I've always got a camera attached to a swivel arm. Sometimes I have 2 cameras. I have an external monitor on the same setup. The microphone is on its own desk stand. Even the light is attached to the wall, ready to go. I really like to have as few tripods on the ground as possible to reduce the clutter and keep the space ready to go on a moment's notice. I even have all the lights and the window shades in my office hooked up to Amazon Alexa, so all I need to say is, Alexa, initiate video mode.
Okay.
And the shades will go down, all my film lights will turn on. The more friction I remove, the better. By the way, if you're wondering how I control the lights, it's just these basic Amazon smart plugs. I'll have them linked below along with literally everything else I use in my office. Now, obviously, I've built up my arsenal of gear over time. This didn't just happen overnight. But even when I was just getting started in my childhood bedroom, ideally the tripod was always set up. Otherwise, I had tape on the floor masking where the tripod should go, so it was a quick and easy setup. And the same thing goes for the light stand and anything else that I was using. Whether I was filming with a cheap camera at the time or just my smartphone, I knew exactly what the settings were supposed to be, so I didn't even have to think about it. Audio was a simple lav mic that I always had at my desk that I could plug straight into my recorder. What I recommend you do is next time you get all set up to record, ask yourself which steps are the biggest pains in the butt and how you could easily remove that friction by building a system around it or just making something more permanent within your setup. Now, selfishly, I will do a shameless plug here because big picture, what slows most aspiring creators down isn't their setup. It's not knowing all of the intricate details required to shoot and edit professional videos. The lack of practical understanding and experience causes people to hold back from pursuing their goals for years, and I want to help you solve that. I'll keep it quick, but at contentcreator.com, we have an online program called 14-Day Filmmaker that has revolutionized the way people learn how to shoot and edit professional content. At the time of recording this video, we've taught over 135,000 students, and the results have been incredible. Have you ever just wanted someone to tell you exactly what you need to know with no fluff and no wasted time? Well, that is exactly what we do in 14-Day Filmmaker. We basically take 8 months of learning randomly on YouTube and install it into your brain over the course of just 14 days for less than the price of a trip to the grocery store. Not to mention you get hours of bonus content, cheat sheets, downloadable sound effects, and other editing templates, practice footage, and more. In the core curriculum, you will learn the gear, the settings, the lighting, the composition, the movements, how to tell stories, how to edit like a pro. You get social media training, YouTube training, and commercial training. It's all in there, and anyone who signs up through the link in the description of this video gets access to 3 programs in total. One version that focuses specifically on smartphones because that is all you need to shoot amazing cinematic content. You also get a program that focuses on more professional gear if you've upgraded over time, and then a third program that is a crash course on storytelling. Between those 3 resources, you will have literally everything you need to launch your channel, grow your brand or business, or even start a full-time business selling video services to clients. Like I said, the link to join is in the description. Other than that, you now know my top 5 tips for increasing your productivity and getting more done as a content creator. If you found it valuable, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. By the way, we've got 2 videos over here that will also speed up your journey as a content creator like crazy. Check them out.